Hello, everyone. Today, I want to tell you a story about patience, about dreams, and a man named Tom. Tom was a hard worker who lived a simple life, but he always felt like he was missing something big. He tired of working for money. He wanted a future where he could finally sit back and breathe. One bright morning, he saw the sign he'd been waiting for. It was time to visit the bank. The doors were massive, representing the huge step Tom was about to take for his future. Inside, he met the banker, a man who looked like he knew every secret of the financial world. Tom sat down, his heart racing, ready to ask the question that had been on his mind for years. The banker didn't look at Tom's clothes or his status. He only looked at the potential Tom held. Tom explained his dream. He wanted to plant a seed today that would grow into a golden tree tomorrow. The banker pulled out a giant basket and told Tom about something called the S&P 500. He explained that this wasn't just one company, but the 500 strongest pillars of the country. If these 500 grow, Tom, then you grow right along with them, the banker whispered. Tom peered into the basket, seeing a world of opportunity he never knew existed. The banker leaned in, telling him that the secret ingredient wasn't luck, it was time. Tom took every bit of his hard-earned savings and placed them into that magical basket. He felt a weight lift off his shoulders. His journey to wealth had officially begun. He left the bank that day with a receipt in his hand and a brand new skip in his step. That night, Tom slept better than he ever had before, dreaming of the years to come. He imagined his small investment growing, inch by inch, into something magnificent. Days turned into months, and Tom remained patient, trusting the banker's wise words. Every time he looked at his wall, he reminded himself why he started this journey. He looked through his telescope at the horizon, seeing a retirement filled with peace and shade. He was ready to wait 10 years. He believed he was safe under the protection of the basket. But as the years began to flip by, the air started to feel a little bit different for our friend Tom.
The year 2000 arrived with a smile. Tom was ready, his plan was set, and the journey began. But time has a funny way of moving fast, while everything else stands perfectly still. Tom checked his investment every day, waiting for that tiny sapling to turn into a mighty oak. He read the news, but the headlines never seemed to change. The market was stuck in a rut. To understand what happened next, imagine Tom stepping onto a giant treadmill. 3 years passed. Tom was running, working, and saving, but the scenery was exactly the same. He was moving his legs as fast as he could, yet he wasn't gaining an inch of ground. He stayed hydrated, he stayed focused, and he followed every rule the banker gave him. Even the banker, with all his wisdom, could only watch as the numbers refused to budge. 5 years, half a decade gone. Tom was breathless, but the golden tree was still just a dream. He reached out for his profits, but all he found was a cloud of zeros and empty promises. He didn't quit. He ran harder. He believed that if he just pushed more, the world would catch up. But the chart on the wall didn't care about Tom's effort. It stayed as flat as a desert floor. He looked into his wallet. Despite all the sweat and the miles, there was nothing extra inside. 7 years in, and Tom was starting to feel the weight of time on his shoulders. He carried his savings like a heavy burden, waiting for the day they would finally lift him up. The banker looked far into the distance, but even he couldn't see the end of this stillness. Through storms and through heat, Tom kept his pace, proving his patience was legendary. But his little tree remained a twig. 10 years of watering, and not a single new leaf. Finally, 2009 arrived. The decade was over, and Tom was simply exhausted. He looked at his final statement: 10 years of work, 10 years of waiting, and a return of 0%. The banker explained that Tom had lived through something rare, the lost decade. Tom sat in the silence, wondering if he had wasted the best years of his life. He had been patient, but he was about to learn that the stillness hid an even bigger problem.
In the beginning, Tom's money felt powerful. A few coins could fill a whole bag with everything he needed. He knew exactly what $1 was worth, and he felt safe with his savings tucked away. 10 years passed. Tom's bank account still had the same balance, but the world outside had changed. He went to the same store with the same money, but his bag came back feeling much lighter. He looked at the price tags and couldn't believe his eyes. Everything had become more expensive. The banker explained that while Tom's money hadn't moved, the cost of living had taken a giant leap forward. This was the work of a silent thief, someone who doesn't take your coins but steals their value. Tom realized that saving wasn't enough if the price of a simple gallon of milk kept climbing higher. Inflation is like a balloon that keeps growing, pushing your dreams further away every single day. On paper, Tom was still worth $10,000, but in the real world, he was becoming poorer. At the gas pump, he watched the numbers fly. His money was burning faster than the fuel in his car. The banker showed him that a dollar bill is just a piece of paper. Its true strength is what it can buy. Tom sat at his table, realizing his safe investment had left him with less food on his plate. Like a snowman in the summer sun, the purchasing power of his savings was slowly melting away. The banker called it the silent thief, an invisible force that punishes those who stand still for too long. Tom felt like he was running up a down escalator. No matter how hard he worked, he was losing ground. Even his morning coffee felt like a luxury he could no longer afford with his old budget. The balance of the world had shifted. It took more and more money just to stay in the same place. He was surrounded by rising costs, feeling like he was drowning in a sea of higher price tags. Everything was getting smaller or poorer in quality, while the cost to buy it kept going up. The shield Tom thought would protect him, his bank balance, wasn't strong enough for this thief. He sat on his pile of savings, but he couldn't reach the life he wanted. The pile just wasn't high enough anymore. Tom felt tired. He had spent 10 years being patient, only to realize he had lost more than just time. But the banker wasn't finished. He had one more lesson, a way for Tom to fight back against the thief.
Tom felt broken. He had put everything he owned into one single place, and that place had let him down. The banker unrolled a giant map. "The world is much bigger than just one market, Tom," he said softly. He showed Tom that there wasn't just one basket for his dreams. There were hundreds of them. The first was gold, a heavy, shiny shield that often grows strong when everything else feels weak. Tom placed the portion of his hope into the gold basket, watching it glow with a new kind of safety. Next were bonds, like a promise from a friend that your money would return with a little extra for the wait. He tucked his savings into the blue basket of bonds, feeling the foundation of his future grow more stable. Then the banker spun the globe. "Other countries are growing too," he explained. "Why not visit them?" Tom took a basket filled with the strength of many nations, diversifying his reach across the whole world. This is the art of balancing. When one ball falls, the others stay in the air to keep the game going. Think of it like a garden. If the sun is too hot for the roses, the cacti will still bloom and keep the garden beautiful. Diversification is like a giant multicolored umbrella. It doesn't stop the rain, but it keeps you dry no matter which way the wind blows. Tom began to divide his treasure. He wasn't just investing anymore, he was building a fortress. When a storm hit his first basket, it didn't matter. His other investments were still standing in the sunshine. The banker opened the book of wisdom. He showed Tom that variety isn't just the spice of life, it's the safety of wealth. Tom realized his journey was now like walking across a bridge with many supports. If one cracked, the others would carry him. He held his new shield of diversity, feeling stronger than he ever had during the lost decade. The oldest rule in the book was finally clear. Never put all your eggs or all your dreams in just one basket. He looked at his total progress. For the first time in 10 years, the needle was finally moving forward. He spread his seeds across different lands, making sure that at least one would always find the right soil to grow. The banker threw him a lifeline. Safety wasn't about being lucky, it was about being spread out. Tom finally sat down and relaxed. He wasn't afraid of the stillness anymore because he had many ways to move. The banker finished his drawing. A balanced life and a balanced portfolio are the keys to lasting peace. Tom was no longer a victim of the market. He was a student of the world, ready for whatever came next.
Time continued its dance, and our friend Tom grew older, wiser, and more peaceful. He sat in his favorite chair, reflecting on the lessons that the years had carved into his heart. He wasn't worried about the future anymore because he had finally cracked the code of security. The banker had taught him the survival protocol, a safety net for the soul and the wallet. It was simple. Always keep a stack of firewood ready so you never have to fear the coldest winter. This protocol was a shield, protecting Tom from the unpredictable moods of the market. When the storms of the economy howled outside, Tom stayed warm and dry by his own fire. He followed his rules faithfully, knowing that a plan is only as good as the man who keeps it. Even when the charts turned red, Tom's life stayed green. He had enough to keep his tea warm. He kept an emergency jar, a small secret stash that ensured he would never be truly hungry. His garden was full now, many trees, many baskets, and a lifetime of hard-earned shade. He understood that life is a balance of sun and rain, and he was prepared for both. He walked through his legacy, watering the dreams he had planted so many decades ago. He never forgot the banker, the man who showed him that money is a tool, not a master. He looked back at the lost decade not as a tragedy, but as the best classroom he ever attended. His compass was set on peace, a destination that no market crash could ever take away. And now he passes these stories down so that the next generation won't have to fear the stillness. His golden tree was finally tall, casting a shadow of security over his entire family. As the sun began to set on his journey, Tom lit a lamp of hope for everyone listening. Because in the end, the wisdom you carry is worth far more than the gold in your vault. He watched the day fade, grateful for every challenge that made him the man he was today. Tom was content. He had worked hard, lived simply, and finally, he had enough. He walked toward the light, leaving behind a map for all of us to follow. Thank you for joining Tom. Remember, live better with less, and you will always have what you need.